Hello. So my research is focused on the effects of stress on memory and specifically the sex difference and estrous cycle influence we see in this process. So now as we're all living through a global pandemic, I think we can understand how stress can play an important role in our daily lives. There's a bunch of physical ailments and symptoms that can arise from this, and cognitive impairments are also really common. You often see these kinds of issues with chronic stress. So if you're stressed for a very long time, you have different memory disruptions and other physical side effects that can happen. However, although short stresses might be beneficial in some cases, if you have short events such as like different traumas, like natural disasters, earthquakes or fires that we might be going through now, or assault or shootings, things like that, these traumatic events are short in duration, but they're complex or severe enough that they can lead to different psychiatric disorders like post-traumatic stress or just different cognitive impairments. And so what I'm looking at specifically is the resulting spatial memory impairments that we see in these types of events. So in years prior, the lab has observed that there is spatial memory impairments in male mice when they're subjected to this kind of stress. My work was focused on looking at what happens in female mice. In stress and memory processes, as well as how stress and memory interact, there's one obvious sex differences in these mechanisms, but also influence of the estrous cycle or sex hormones that can influence this process. So to study how these multiple stresses affect female mice, we split them into different estrous cycle categories. Specifically, we looked at mice with low levels of estrogen. So these are our estrous cycle mice. And then our mice with high levels of estrogen. So these are our pro-estrous cycled mice. And we see that after these mice are stressed in one of these two stages, when we measure their memory performance on different memory tasks, so we use an object location memory task or a spatial Y-maze task, we see that there is stress-induced memory impairment, but this is selectively in the mice who were stressed during early pro-estrus. So this is when estrogen levels are elevated. And so we see those spatial memory impairments, and we also see a loss of synapses and thin dendritic spines in the hippocampus, which may be underlying this impairment. Our main takeaway is that these mice with these elevated estrogen levels have memory impairments. So my future work is focusing on, is estrogen involved in this mechanism? And to do that, we'll be looking at blocking estrogen signaling through different pharmacological approaches as well as transgenic approaches to determine if estrogen is involved in this stress-induced memory impairment.